one.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about earlier with maybe a teacher being able to spot the fact that the kids have the capacity to understand a subject, but then when it comes to doing an assignment, doing some written work, doing an exam, there's a difference there. So when you're having to do that kind of prolonged work, having to copy off the board, or you enlarge the print and the reading seems to get easier, then that's sort of an indication that maybe vision's involved. So, but if you have a look at a population of kids who might be struggling with literacy, now whether it's diagnosed as specifically as something like dyslexia, or whether it's just they're not reaching particular standards, then there's a body of research that sort of indicates there's a lot more sort of functional vision problems in that group. And so we're not going to get into the debate of whether it's causative or not. I think we just say, look, it's associated. The two things occur together. And we don't want to make a sort of a strong link between the two. But the very fact that the kids who are struggling academically are also the population kids that have a high proportion of these functional vision problems means that, well, you've got two flags there. You kind of go, well, one may predict the other. And so if a child's struggling academically, then there's a chance that they're also struggling visually from a functional point of view. Yeah. And so that should be a flag to kind of rule vision out as a problem. And if we get a child in where they're struggling with reading, we find a vision problem, we treat the vision problem, and their reading takes off. It was never a reading problem. It was a vision problem. Okay. Now, not all cases like that. That would be awesome if it was as simple as that. But if you get a child where they've got a reading issue, we find a vision issue, and we treat the vision issue, but they're still struggling academically, then we know we've got a few things going on. You've ruled out vision being the cause, but now you've also got a child whose vision is now supporting their recovery, remediation, catching up sort of process. So that's where I see vision being an important part, even if it's not the cause of the academic issue, is you don't want that to be yet another thing that the child's having to deal with.
So I have a lot of empathy here for educators in the sense that, like, if they've got a child or one of several children that they're responsible for, and that child is experiencing some problems in the classroom, it could be a vision issue. It could be, something else like ADHD or dyslexia. It could be just, like their home environment. There's a lot of potential things that it could be. But it sounds like what you're saying is one of the solutions here is process of elimination, and actually like ruling out whether it's the visual system that's at fault here.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this on previous interviews that 70% of the school day is engaged in environments that are highly visually demanding, and so that's the modern classroom and modern life now. And because we look at sort of vision as being the master sense, that it's kind of it puts a lot of influence on how we understand the world and how we learn and how we interact, that sometimes for some people it only takes a mild vision problem to kind of really cause some interference and some problems. So it's an important part to at least eliminate the whole process. And the way I also look at it is, if you do need to move on and get sort of educational assessments done, so if your child needs more cognitive assessments, educational assessments, and they go into those assessments with a functional vision problem, they're very demanding tests to do. You want to make sure that that's not going to influence the outcomes. And unfortunately, we don't have sort of any research to sort of show, does a functional vision problem impact on those cognitive assessments? It would make sense that you just want to make sure that it doesn't.
So I think you're saying that it could lead to some false positives when it comes to these
that would be my concern. If someone's not aware of taking, and I know they are often careful in those processes to piece it out and take breaks and those sorts of things, which would satisfy some people if they've got a vision problem. That taking a break is an important part, but in a lot of situations like the classroom, they don't get to take breaks. It's particularly if their break needs to be after every 10 minutes. You're not going to get through your work very easily doing that.